begin it now? Whom do we talk to? Anyone, everyone, everyone. So serve to change lives, 'cause lives can be changed forever. Serve to change lives whenever we're working together. Talk to someone right now. Start now and wow. When the right time arrives, you'll see you've changed lives. So serve to change lives, 'cause lives can be changed forever. Whenever we're working together, talk to someone right now. Start now and wow. When the right time arrives, you'll see you've changed lives. So serve to change lives.
Good evening, Rotarians and guests. My name is Stephen Rando, and I'm your MC for this evening's Rotary meeting. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri and the Bennelong people of the Kulin Nation, and also pay our respects to elders past, present, and future, and extend that respect to all Indigenous Australians present today. Please note that all microphones currently have been muted for the duration of this evening's presentation. Accolades, comments, and questions can be posted via the Zoom chat function throughout the presentation. It's with my great pleasure to welcome you all to the 23rd meeting of the Rotary year and our monthly evening meeting for December. We are so pleased that you've all made it for this special occasion. And what an honour it is for us to introduce our guest speaker for tonight, Dr. Kate Robb, who is the founder and head of research for the Marine Mammal Foundation. Kate is waiting online and will be more fully introduced shortly by our chair of the day, Sana Malik. In the meantime, please make them feel welcome.
Thank you, Stephen. So as Stephen mentioned, Dr. Kate Robb will be speaking about making waves in marine mammal research, education and conservation. And yes, we encourage all questions to be put in the chat box, which we will address at the end of the meeting. So please give our guest a warm welcome.
Okay, so thank you for the introduction. So it is making waves in marine mammal research, education and conservation. And as was already done, I would like to begin my presentation tonight by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we meet. I'm personally coming from Burrunan land, and I pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. And I extend that respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people here today. So I'm from the Marine Mammal Foundation, so I'm the founding director and head of research at the foundation, and our vision is to be a leading Australian marine mammal conservation organisation, protecting the marine environment through research, community engagement and education. Now, we have four main areas that help us achieve this vision, and that's to conduct applied research across Victoria's coastline and extending into Australia. Undertaking internationally significant research on our marine mammals. But more so, we want to actually apply those findings to make a difference in conservation policy and management of our environment and the marine mammals that live there. We also want to raise awareness in the community and increase stakeholder knowledge of the marine conservation issues, and also provide education, so inspiring the next generation to continue on that legacy. So that's a little bit about the Marine Mammal Foundation, a little bit about me. I've done a Bachelor of Science degree at Monash University with a double major in marine and freshwater ecology and conservation genetics. I undertook my honours project with applied research in 2003, and then continued on to do my to achieve the Dean's Postgraduate Research Scholarship to do my PhD studies. I have 18 years experience out in our amazing watery backyard. I'm vet trained to conduct necropsies and scientific sampling on beach cast whales and dolphins. And I'm one of the only people, a handful of people in Australia that are permitted to biopsy sample live animals. I've lectured at Monash University, a research associate with Museums Victoria and a number of universities, the former president of the Australian Marine Sciences Association Victoria branch. I usually switch my summers up as a naturalist down in Antarctica on expeditions, and of course the founding director of the Marine Mammal Foundation. So as you can see, I wear a lot of hats and it keeps me very busy, but I absolutely love what I do. But my journey has been a little bit different in that I started my education is actually a design and photographer and did a degree in that. But then I started scuba diving when I was in my late teens and absolutely loved it under the water. And, wanted to learn more about our amazing watery backyard, but more so what I could do to protect that. And then I was introduced to the dolphins in Port Phillip Bay, having grown up down in Mount Martha and spending most of my summers at the beach. And like most people that I've met, the dolphins' inquisitive nature, there's just something about them that inspires. And, I've not met a person who doesn't like dolphins. But then also in second year of my undergraduate, I received a lecture about the use of DNA, this new fancy tool that was able to help answer certain questions about cryptic species. Now, obviously, dolphins spend a lot of time under the water and we only really see surface. So having a look at the dolphin's DNA was something that really intrigued me. But let's dive deep under the water and see what it is that intrigued me about these. So I want to introduce you to the dolphins of Port Phillip Bay. Now, these dolphins are a little bit of mishmash between the other two recognized bottlenose dolphin species, Tursiops truncatus, the common bottlenose dolphin, and Tursiops aduncus, the Indo-Pacific bottlenose dolphin. So my research question when I started was which of the two species were this mishmash of a species we found here in Port Phillip Bay? But that question took me about 6 years to try and figure out, and it continues as we speak today. And it was not a simple, straightforward one. In fact, it led me to the formal discovery, description, and naming of the world's newest dolphin species. So I'd like to introduce you to the Burrunan dolphin, Tursiops australis. So after that really long journey through field observations, lab-based work, looking at the dolphin's DNA and looking through museum collections and collecting information on measures of dolphin skulls, this culminated in a taxonomic paper in 2011 as a part of my PhD studies, which basically classified these amazing dolphins found in Port Phillip Bay as a brand new species. Now, this is one of only 4 times since the late 1800s that this has ever been done. So it was absolutely amazing that such a charismatic megafauna living right under the noses of a major metropolitan city like Melbourne had yet to be described. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. Obviously, being able to name a dolphin is something pretty spectacular, and also got a lot of suggestions like Kate's dolphins or Howie's dolphins, because my husband had to put up with me. I actually wanted to have something that was reflective of its history. So I worked with the Indigenous elders of the Burrunan of the Kulin Nation, and we went back through the records along with VACL and found that Burrunan was an Indigenous word for dolphins, meaning large sea fish of the porpoise kind. And I thought that was absolutely perfect as it reflected the history of these amazing creatures. And so permissions were granted and allowed Burrunan to be the common name of the species. But that was just the start of my journey. After completing my PhD, I worked as an academic at Monash University and then went on and founded the Marine Mammal Foundation in 2013 with the specific aim of taking that really advanced core applied research and making a real difference in the community, in conservation, in policy, and in management. But it's not just me now. I have an amazing core team of people behind me, including a number of PhD researchers, honours students, and education officers, and marine champions leaders. And as you can see, Matt's very blessed in that he has a really amazing core team of female, strong, independent, smart women that stand alongside him there. Matt's here today and he'll attest to that, I'm sure. But we also have a brilliant cohort of volunteers that help us with litter collections, with our outreach programs and school holiday programs, with our research both on the boat and our citizen science programs, out at festivals raising awareness, conducting land-based citizen science, and of course inspiring our next generation of marine biologists. At the core of the foundation, though, is our research. And a lot of that is primarily focused on the dolphins, and we do everything from population and identifying every individual within our population, to the social alliances, to the mapping of where they are, all the way through to looking at the threatening processes. And we are very fortunate, but also work really hard and collaborate with numerous government organisations, universities, and funding providers. So our main focus, as I've said, is our amazing marine mammals, from our Burrunan dolphins to the zippy little common dolphins we can also find in Port Phillip Bay, to our migratory whales such as the southern right whale or the humpback whale, to the cheeky and playful Aussie fur seals that we find in the bay. But back to the Burrunan dolphin. So the Burrunan dolphin is only found in southern and southeastern Australia. In Victoria, we only have 2 known resident populations here. So unlike the common bottlenose dolphin, which is found all over the globe in tropical and temperate areas, and the Indo-Pacific bottlenose dolphin, which was found in the Indo-Pacific region, our Burrunan dolphins are found in a very, very small corner of the globe. We have an estimated population size of 240 dolphins across both of those populations in Port Phillip Bay and the Gippsland Lakes. And the populations, unfortunately, in the Gippsland Lakes are in decline. So all of our work has culminated in the Burrunan dolphin being listed as critically endangered. But how do we know that? So when we go out on the water, we complete in-field surveys on our research vessel, and we take thousands and thousands of images. And as you can see with the dolphins here, every single dolphin has a unique series of nicks and notches along the trailing edge of the dorsal fin, which allows us to identify each and every one of our dolphins, and sometimes give them names as well. And by doing that, we're able to track every individual within our population, who's hanging out with who, where they're hanging out, and a whole bunch of other different things like population modeling and population viability. So we can have a look at our females and our males. We can see the residency or transient patterns. We can see our numbers and how they change over space and time. We also have, importantly, look at our mother-calf associations. So dolphins have a 12-month gestation period, and then they have a 3 to 5 year mother-calf association with their calf, which you can see here in the image. So we're able to collect the images of both the mothers and the calves, and we're able to track that success through time, through to reproductive state, which is an important aspect of population viability analysis. But not only that, we have a look at how the dolphins are using the environment. So we undertake geospatial mapping and have a look at where we're finding our dolphins and identify areas of significance for those dolphins. And we have a look at how that may change over season, across space and time. We have very few marine protected areas in Port Phillip Bay, and so we're able to use this data to identify areas that are crucial habitats for the Burrunan dolphin, and a lot of the time that relates to everything below it as well: fish stocks, healthy seagrass, healthy waterways. So as a holistic umbrella approach, we can use geospatial mapping to identify areas of significance. We also have a look at what they're doing in that area. So whether they're following particular fish runs or squid runs, or whether they're looking at contour lines, and what is the habitat of significance for this particular distribution. We're also having a look at the acoustics. So Amber's here with us tonight. So Amber's undertaking her PhD with Marine Mammal Foundation and Curtin University. So dolphins use sound for pretty much everything: navigation, communication, locating prey, recognition of individuals, and those all important mother-calf interactions. But it's a really complex marine soundscape. A lot of people hear or know the movie Flipper. That's not what dolphins sound like. So let's just play a bit of this clip and you can hear what they sound like. So they have very complex set of sounds. So from chirps and whistles, buzzes, squeaks, squawks, and sometimes they even sound like a bunch of nanas under the water having a good chatter. And so we usually conduct those on our surveys using the hydrophone, but we've actually instigated for the first time a project where we're having passive acoustic monitoring. That's not playing. Passive acoustic monitoring stations that record 5 minutes in every 20 minutes across the bay, and that is 24 hours a day for months at a time. And so we've been able to have a look at the distribution of dolphins on a 24-hour basis, something that we've never been able to do. And as I mentioned in the pre-presentation chat, we were able to do this during COVID lockdowns. So it's like a controlled experiment. Hopefully never again are we going to shut down everything as much as we did in 2020. So we're able to have a very busy and complex marine soundscape with shipping and recreational vessels through to when it all went quiet and now when it's picking up again. We're also having a look at newer technologies such as drones and UAV footage. So we conduct our research having a look at observations from the boat. So this is our research boat. But we've been able to put the drone up and for the first time have a look at the complex nature of these behaviors. And so when we see the dolphins here, you can have our research boat and we have a look at their surface activity. Whereas when we have a look at the behavior, we can see the chopping and changing of positions, of hierarchy, and how those interact with other marine mammals. So in this particular instance, you can see a little Australian fur seal in there. And 2 lots of mating chases are about to begin, where underwater you can see the complex nature of the males separating off a female and working together in that cohort for that female's attention. So all of this behavior obviously happens under the water, which we can now see from this drone footage. So it's pretty amazing stuff, and we're really pleased with those results. Of course, we want to also have a look at the threats and dangers associated with these dolphins. And one of the biggest threats that we see are the vessel interactions. And so we have regulations in place to protect whales and dolphins, and that vessels are not to approach within 100 meters of a dolphin, and that's powered and unpowered, so including kayaks and stand-up paddleboards. And jet skis are not to approach within 300 meters of a dolphin. So obviously we have got some footage here and some images of dolphins that have actually been hit by boat props. And fortunately, in both instances, they survived, but in other instances, they haven't. So it's raising awareness and having a look at the threats and dangers impacted by us, essentially. Another project we're having a look at, and this is a part of Chantal's PhD work alongside RMIT, is having a look at the marine toxicants. Now, we know that the dolphins live in Port Phillip Bay and the Gippsland Lakes, and they're major agricultural, industrial, and where we all live around the bay. And so there's a lot of input going into these amazing waterways. So what we want to have a look at is, as top water predators in the system, what are the toxicant burdens? So what's the bioavailability? What's the bioaccumulation of these toxicants? And what are they having an effect on the animals that are in our environment? So as you can see, it's quite a complex research program, but one of our biggest challenges is, as I said, we want to have conservation outcomes. So we're facing in the last couple of years one of our biggest challenges with our Gippsland Lakes population. And that is due to a global change and extreme weather events and a number of other factors. So in just last year, we published a paper in Nature Scientific Reports, which for the first time defined a new disease, a freshwater skin disease, which is not only affecting dolphins in coastal Australia, but also globally. And it's this ulcerative or lesion condition, and it's often colonized by fungal and bacterial and secondary infections. And the common environmental factor is this abrupt decrease in salinity. And that's linked to these high rainfall events in catchments and the dolphins living and persisting in these hypersaline environments. Now we're seeing with global climate change, these really extreme weather events. And at the moment, we've been sort of stuck in a La Nina pattern. So as everybody would appreciate, it's been very wet and very rainy, which has increased the waterfall. So I have to at this stage give you a warning because there are some graphic images to follow. Unfortunately, this is just what is happening at the moment, and it is really imperative that we document this, but it can be a little distressing for people. So our case studies that we used were from the 2007 freshwater skin disease outbreak. And as you can see, this dolphin here from the Gippsland Lakes has a number of these ulcerative skin lesions across the entire body of the dolphin, which in turn causes essentially shock and organ failure and can lead to death in this case. So these are the case studies we used in 2007 when we had another impact with rain event. Now the Gippsland Lakes, for people who don't know, have 7 major river systems that flow into the Gippsland catchment. So all of the water that lands on those mountains flows down into the 75-kilometre long stretch of lakes and lagoons that only has an 80-metre opening out into the ocean. Now, impacting on that in 2020, well, late 2019 and 2020, were the horrendous bushfires that scoured the land. And obviously a lot of impact was done on the land, stripping the land, but also in putting those fires out. And after that, we also then had major flooding with huge rainfalls. And of course, all of that ended up into the Gippsland Lakes. So we can see down here in the bottom graph, we have the salinity values of 2019, which is up around sort of very saline conditions. And then we can see during 2021, we had increased rainfall and our salinity dropped below to near freshwater. And that's continuing now on into 2021. So unfortunately, with that combination of events, we have seen another mortality event down in the Gippsland Lakes. And in this case, it was much more severe than we had documented in 2007, with dolphins with severe ulcerative lesions across pretty much 100% of their skin, leading to a number of deaths within our population. And unfortunately, this is continuing as we speak. So we're doing everything we can to find out what's going on. In this particular case, one of the most concerning things is that rapid change in population. So you can see in the image from November, this particular dolphin, then in December. So in 1 month, we had a huge impact and we lost quite a number of dolphins. And there's a significant portion of the population that are missing that we would ordinarily see on each one of our surveys. So it is a real concern. So not only are we documenting how that's going to impact the population and the individuals, we're having a look at the potential causes behind it. So we're out there collecting water samples and water quality measures across the entire lake system and looking at those threshold limits with salinity. We also have a new project, and Grace joins us today, and this is in affiliation with Deakin University, where we're having a look at the genes responsible for immune function, so the MHC region, and we're having a look at how these MHC receptors can have an immune response, and given the population, is there something going on that on a genetic level? So we're having a look at the very finest detail in the genes all the way through to the environmental variables to understand. But as I said, that's one of our major concerns that we're faced with. Now, at the Marine Mammal Foundation, we're world leading in a lot of these areas. We publish in highly prestigious international journals. We present at international conferences, and there's no other organization in the world that is focusing on the endangered or critically endangered Burrunan dolphins. But doing all of this research is really great, but we need to get the message out there, and we need to live our motto, which is to ensure what we do today creates a better tomorrow. And there is now a global movement, which is absolutely fantastic, which is backing that support. And that's the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And in particular for us, it's the life below water. So that sets out a set of goals, and in particular, our case is to manage and protect the marine and coastal environments and achieve a healthy and productive ocean, to conserve at least 10% of the coastal and marine areas with the best available scientific information. So that is where our research is really focusing in on being able to guide not only local and Australia, but also global standings on where we are. But one of the other issues is the marine pollution, and particular from land-based activities. And we're finding that is equally one of our biggest threats facing these dolphins. So we spend hundreds and thousands of hours on the water, which is really nice in summer, a little chilly in winter, but we do spend a lot of our time collecting plastic bags, chip packets, water bottles, fishing line, balloons, assisting the Marine Response Unit with entanglements. And unfortunately, I've conducted necropsies on dolphins where the stomach has been compacted with plastic bags. We see in the news constantly that whales are washing up with stomach loads full of huge garbage items, with turtles with straws, and sadly recently a plastic bag found in the bottom of the Mariana Trench. We're also now having a look at the impact that has on us as humans. So we're finding plastic pollution in rain, in the air we breathe, and in the fish we eat. So this is a huge issue, and it's not just a local issue, it's a global issue. So how does plastic get into the marine environment? So we can see on this flow chart that 270 million tonnes of primary plastic pollution is created per year. 3 to 275 million tonnes of plastic waste, then the mismanagement of that waste. But what I really want you to draw your attention to is the 8 million tonnes per year that end up in our oceans each year. Now, 8 million tonnes is just a huge amount to try and understand. So I want you to go on a bit of a journey with me and close your eyes. And I want you to visualize an elephant. A big male African elephant is huge and weighs about 6 tonnes. So we all have that elephant. Now I want you to turn that elephant into a big pile of plastic. Now I want you to visualize 10 massive elephant-sized piles of plastic. Right, now 100 elephants of plastic. So can anyone guess how many elephant-sized piles of plastic would equate to 8 million tonnes? Well, I'm going to give you the answer here, 1.3 million elephants worth, which again in itself is a huge number to even imagine. And that is what we're doing to our oceans each year. That's how much we're responsible for. And marine creatures like dolphins and whales and turtles don't get that choice. So it's not even just that there's that much plastic going into our oceans, it's what happens when it gets out there. And there's a huge misconception that plastic breaks down, but in fact it does not, it breaks up. So every piece of plastic ever made still exists in some form today. We saw the news clip of the largest whale with large plastic items compacting their stomach that led to death. But when these bigger plastic items then break down into smaller items and then the fish eat those and they're consumed by the top water predators like dolphins and us, we start seeing more impacts through the whole ecosystem. And it's not just those tiny bits of microplastics, it's also the toxicants that leach out and bioaccumulate and biomagnify through the food chain. So this is a massive issue that we're dealing with. So what are we doing about it? Not only are we undertaking this, applied research, having a look at the toxicant levels and marine litter and all of the threats associated, but we're joined today also by Matt, our education director, and we're very busy out in the education and outreach space. We're in schools, we're at festivals with Bella the Burrunan, engaging the community. We're empowering the next generation of marine biologists with our marine champions and instigating citizen science programs with litter cleanups and land-based observations. So we aim to inspire appreciation of our marine mammals by demonstrating the amazing diversity found. We want to foster that connection. I'm yet to meet a person who goes, "Oh, I hate dolphins, whales." Ugh. We want to be able to foster that connection so people care about what it is that we're doing to our environment, and we want to empower action. There's a lot of greenwashing with these sorts of things and people can switch off. But if we have empowerment action, small, simple steps, they can really make a difference. And the Marine Mammal Foundation is uniquely placed to combine all of that applied research with science education. And it's always built from our research. So we know what we're talking about and we can back what we're saying. And we want to engage students, the community of all ages and ability to have an appreciation and to try and make that change that we are trying to create. In particular, our marine litter project. So more than just a Band-Aid approach. I mentioned that we do litter cleanups and litter audits, which is really fantastic, but we want to really have a look at the impact on our local environments. And we want to have a rethink strategy on our sustainability. So it's not just having that cleanup approach or that Band-Aid approach, it's actually looking higher. If people go to the supermarket and make more sustainable choices, to take their own bags, to not buy things in plastic, to bring their own containers, to have a look at new and unique design initiatives, to be able to rethink the level of overuse of plastics. That's our main aim in the wider community. And this program that we've developed and Matt delivers every day was actually the winner of the Keep Victoria Beautiful Sustainable Cities Award. And we're really very proud of the work that we're doing in this space. But not only that, we want to inspire our next generation. So we have a Marine Champions Youth Engagement Program, which is unique in this area because it's science-based. So these young people are learning all about this amazing science that we're doing, can be involved in it. And it's designed for those kids that really want to be a marine biologist when they grow up. And it's an avenue to do that. And we do expeditions, we do stand-up paddleboarding. They get involved with all sorts of activities, but they also learn about evolution and a whole bunch of different things. And they're really the change makers and the scientists of our future. We're very proud of these marine champions, and they saw that marine litter and sustainability was a huge issue in their schools and in their communities. And together with our Marine Champions leader, they created the Sustainable Steps Guide. Now, some of these kids are really shy and they don't know how to approach the school or their principal to be able to get some kind of action initiatives. So they came up with this beautiful guide that actually you can hand out and talk to your principal or your teacher or your environment captain on how to make plastic-free canteens, how to run a campaign to be able to reduce plastics, to create an environment group. So we're really proud of the work that these Marine Champions are doing and making a difference. So as I keep going on about, our research has real conservation outcomes. So the Burrunan was originally listed as endangered under Victorian Fauna and Fauna Guarantee Act in 2013. But we've greatly added to the understanding of not only this species, but of the population, the individuals within the population, their habitat, and of course, the threatening processes. And just this year, we were able to put all of that together and have the dolphins reassessed as critically endangered following the IUCN Red List criteria. So it's not just about research for research's sake. We're very proactive in this space. We've also been instrumental in having the dolphins listed as an actual asset and of value to Victoria's marine environment, which is really important for something that's intrinsic as a dolphin that you can't ordinarily put a monetary value on. So they're now listed as an asset. We've worked really closely with the department to be able to remake the wildlife marine mammal regulations, which has a look at the boating regulations and the approach distances. And of course, pulled our research together to have that listing of critically endangered. So we're really proud of what we're doing. We're proud of our action initiatives. We have an amazing team of researchers and educators, and we're very pleased to have you along on this journey with us. A lot of the times we ask how you can help. So community support makes a huge difference to the foundation. We're all funding dependent, and we largely depend on small one-off government grants. Our partnerships and philanthropic support is a crucial next step, and we are a CNC registered charity organisation with DGR status. So that enables us to be in a very unique position of being able to involve the community with what we do. And you can even adopt your very own Burrunan Dolphin. And we also get those amazing boaties that are out on the water, or that, at the yacht clubs around the bay and across the lakes. And whilst we would love to be on the water all of the time, we can't be. So we have a Facebook page if you're into that kind of thing, and also a web page where you can report your sightings and help us put those really important dots on the map, so we have a better understanding of where our dolphins and how they're using our system. So with that, I'd like to finish up with an amazing video we collected during COVID times when it was just us and the Burrunan out on the water. And now this video, if you look very carefully, features a very special Burrunan dolphin. And in recognition of National Reconciliation Week in 2020, we again worked with the elders of the Burrunan and in naming this very special dolphin. So this dolphin had significant recovered wounds from all across the body from a boat strike. And so the elders have named this dolphin We Agoon Dalabub, meaning live dolphin, to celebrate its fighting spirit and its history. And if you also watch out, we've got some amazing little calves that come and interact with the vessel at their choice, and they're our next generation as well. This is Dalabub coming in here. And so with that, I would like to thank you for joining me here and listening to what we do at the foundation. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Well, thank you, Kate. I'm probably on behalf of all members, I'm not too sure, you're not just making waves, you're making a tsunami of waves in the marine mammal research and education and conservation. We've had a couple of comments on some of our members that's been very enlightening and informative, and certainly we'll be looking secondly and try to adopt and look at dolphins differently, but also just the ecosystem that you've just advised us of, just absolutely amazing from start to finish, and how we all can make a difference in terms of the sustainability of these great animals. Kate, just a quick question from me. Are you able to enlighten us a little bit further on any further experiments that you and your team are working on either at the end of this year or next year in terms of your foundation and what you're doing?
Yeah, so we're continuing our research. We have Amber's just started her PhD with us. So she was one of our Marine Champions leaders and helps with all of the social media. So she's starting on the acoustics project. So for the very first time, we're going to be able to define each of the different sounds that they make and correlate that to the behaviors. So in doing so, when we're recording those, when the sound traps are recording at midnight, when we're all tucked up in bed, of course, the dolphins don't go to bed, they work all the way through the night. We'll be able to link those sounds to what they're doing and say, oh, well, off the back of, rye there, they're feeding at 2 o'clock in the morning, and have a look at those. So that's a really exciting project that we're working on. Obviously, we're very concerned about the Gippsland Lakes population. So we're working very closely with DELP and Parks Victoria and EPA and a number of universities to try and get to the bottom of what's going on down there in the Gippsland Lakes, not only to understand the population impacts, but also to try and mitigate those, those impacts from happening again. So there are a lot of our focuses. And Grace, who's also with us, is just finished, well, she's just about to finish her honours looking at the MHC. So we're also continuing on to have a look at the full genome. So when I started my PhD, there were small regions of the DNA I could have a look at, but now with the amazing technologies, we can have a look at full genomes and compare them to species across the globe. So that's just a snippet of some of the exciting stuff we've going on.
Thanks, Kate. We'll now just open up for questions. We've got a question from Bev Brock, which I'll read out and hopefully you can address and talk directly to her. She's asked specifically, did the dredging of the bay a few years ago allow for larger ships to move into the port, and have any marked effects on either the number of dolphins present or the environment?
So that's a really great question. And we've had a number of across the years series of dredging across the bay, and there's constant maintenance dredging going on with the shipping ports. It has allowed larger ships in, and that's one of the questions that we're wanting to address with looking at sound as a threatening process. If you could imagine the noise coming from ships and from recreational vessels when the dolphins rely heavily on sound for communication. So we're having a look at those impacts as a threatening process. So hopefully we'll be able to address that. The dolphins, in terms of their behavior around ships, we've seen them on the bow riding and doing these huge leaps up the front of the ships and using those pressure waves. So they can, because the ships are going about what they're doing, they can actually choose to interact and have that bow ride, or they can move away from there. So the major impact that we see is obviously in that soundscape, which we're just commencing to have a look at. But a great question.
Thanks for that, Kate. We actually have quite a similar question that you just spoke about the bow from Stephen Lake, that has also asked, has anyone told the dolphins about the do not approach rules? Specifically seeing them, as you've just advised before, of when they're sailing on the middle of the bay, and obviously they love to swim ahead of the bow or under the bow. So
the most important thing with the regulations is that the dolphins can make that choice. So a lot of the times with the regulations, it's when jet skis or boats change their track and deliberately approach the dolphins or go over the dolphins and then go back over the dolphins, which is taking away that choice. And we've actually seen negative behavioural responses in the Gippsland lakes to those forced interactions. So all I advise when you're on the water is that you keep your track, you do what you do, you enjoy your day, and chances are the dolphins will come and choose to interact if they're in the area, and then you're going to get a better interaction because it's based on their choice. And they do love a bow ride. They love sitting in the props and enjoying that wash, but that is their choice to interact with us rather than us driving over the top of them. As we can see, that doesn't end well a lot of the time.
Thanks, Kate. I might open up the floor. Catherine Baxter, did you want to ask your question to Kate around your question?
Thanks, Rando. Kate, I'm really interested to understand, of course, the water quality is a big issue, but is there anything we can do in the short term to help treat the ulcers on the dolphins to, I guess, extend the opportunity and extend life?
Yeah, it is. It's a really great question, and we're working very closely with the amazing vets at Melbourne Zoo. You know, Dr. Michael Lynch and I have a very long-standing relationship. She was one of the ones that taught me how to do the necropsies on those, and it's a very complicated system because the ulcerations is as a result of what we believe is the freshwater. These are oceanic species, and so when they're exposed to freshwater, the skin starts to break down. It's not made for those conditions. So unfortunately in the Gippsland lakes, and fortunately for the Gippsland lakes, the dolphins have called the Gippsland lakes home. So they habituated to that area. They've adjusted their behaviors to that area. They've adjusted their diet to that area. So they don't get the message about that. So unfortunately, it's really related to that fresh water that starts this process. But it's also having a look at the other impacts. What else is in the water that can have made this particular, mortality event a lot more significant than other events, and trying to mitigate and understand those. So in the short term, not much we can do about the ulcerative effects, but in the future, we can use this example to try and mitigate against the other impacts that are going on. The dolphins that are still remaining in the population are using both the ocean water and the lakes, which is a change in their habits for some of these dolphins, which is good. But in talking to other people, it's that short evolutionary time for them to start changing their habits to be out of the system in those conditions.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you. Just one last question from George. George, do you want to talk further about your question on international foundations?
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. Kate, do you partner with any international foundations or other associations where you can share your learnings and obviously what they find out as well?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the lead authors is from one of the Marine Mammal Center over in the US, and we have every 2 years an international marine mammal conference, which is a fantastic opportunity for all of us researchers and educators. Matt, they're now, understanding that education and outreach is an important element to conservation and research. So we'll go over there and have really great collaborations and use that as a really good opportunity to talk to other researchers. It's a very close-knit community, so a lot of us have a lot of chat going on about particular things. I'll send, images or questions about a number of different things. So we do affiliate with a number of different universities and a number of different organizations on very different matters. And then it's great every 2 years to be able to get together in the room with people to share our research and to get those collaborations going and to chat about what's going on at the different ends of the globe.
Thanks, Kate. My apologies, we have actually one more from Rosemary Nixon that obviously just want to discuss further about your funding.
Does she have a question or just generally?
You just had to come online and unmute.
Oh, here we go.
I just wondered, Kate, fantastic talk. What are the major sources of your funding?
So the major sources of our funding is primarily grants by government, so DELP, so largely by state government, and a lot of them are sort of 1 year project or 2 year project funding for small amounts that keep us going. So that's probably 80% of our funding source is through these small government grants, and we work very closely with those government organisations to have those sort of those outcomes and those objectives, and not just science for science sake. We do have DGR status and we are ACNC registered now, so we are looking at expanding. That's one of our critical things for 2020 is a lot of the funding was very hard to come by in 2020 and now in 2021, given the COVID situation, which is perfectly understandable. There's been a diversion of funds to medical and to hospitals and to communities, which is, obviously understandable, but it really is critical for us to be able to continue our research to diversify that funding and that income source.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Rosemary, and thank you, Kate. Well, Kate, again, thank you so much for your time and your education to our Rotarians and guests on this evening's meeting. To thank you, we offer all our guest speakers a token gift. They are the best socks in the world. They're limited edition R100 Centenary socks, and they're what's called 200% Australian made in Preston by our past president, Phil Ennisby from the Wilderness Wear, and they'll be posted to you via a courier. Again, just before I pass on to our President Reg for notices and closing, I just want to remind everyone else that our club evening meetings this year are led by an amazing team, so thank you all for your support. And we plan to have more of these evening meetings every second Wednesday of the month. Obviously, through the new year, we've got some more exciting speakers coming up, and we welcome suggestions of any other suitable guest speakers to the program. Again, thank you very much, Kate, and over to you, President Reg.
Thanks very much, Stephen. And I'd just like to add my comments. An incredibly informative presentation, Kate, and thank you enormously for being with us tonight. Now, I do have a few notices, not a lot. I won't keep you much longer, but these are member anniversaries today. We have two members celebrating 17 years of membership. That's David Denoon, and who's served 17 years, and Peter Hollingworth similarly. Also celebrating a staggering 39 years of service to our club is Clive Hollands. These three Rotarian members have been major contributors to the lives of the elderly, disadvantaged, and provided friendship and comfort and service to members and the club. Thank you all three, and we thank you particularly for your continued service and celebrate your membership anniversary today. The second reminder is relating to the Festive Lunch, which is our annual partner event. The big feature at this meeting is going to be an amazing presentation by Maestro David Cram, who has put together a program of festive music and singing with a glamorous soprano trio led by Mia Sorella, combining forces to present soaring vocal lines and thrilling harmonies. Please make sure you attend. The Christmas Appeal accompanying that event will support the good work of the Hush Foundation, which is using the arts, in particular music, to help alleviate patient and staff stress in hospitals, but also to build a kinder system where staff work more caringly together and patients benefit accordingly. A final reminder, early bird bookings close in 7 days on the 15th of December for the Australian Rotary Health and Freemasons Gala event focusing on mental health, which will be held on the 4th of February. Booking details are available in this week's club bulletin, and inquiries can be directed to Rotarian Richard Skinner. And now, in closing the meeting, I would also like to thank our evening team. Every month you guys do an amazing job. So thank you enormously to George, Dan, Stephen, Sana, Ari, and Joe Mavros in particular, who helped me out massively tonight. And one final reminder that, as Stephen said as well, the second Wednesday of the month, it's our evening meeting, and the 9th of February, we're going to be hearing from Emma Hurd, who's the Ernst & Young Oceania partner on climate change and sustainability services, speaking on strategies to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. That should be pretty interesting. So please diarise the date to join us. Finally, thank you again, Kate, for your amazing presentation tonight. And as I say, goodbye to everyone. Do stay safe. Enjoy a great festive season for those we won't see again. Thank you for being here. And we're going to end with a pretty traditional piece by Michael Bublé. It's beginning.